the heightened risk, according to Jason Sweet, and the loneliness pandemic. And this was written before COVID, by the way, which is really telling. The heightened risk of mortality from loneliness equals that of smoking 15 cigarettes a day or being an alcoholic, and an excess of the risks associated with obesity. So if you're chronically stressed, your body is really in a low level fight or flight response all the time. Not to say that there won't be periods of that, but that just can't be the norm. There's a book I love that I highly recommend called Failure of Nerve by Edwin Friedman. It's a really dense book that I reference often. And one of the things that he uses to describe indirectly this idea of setting boundaries is he refers to leaders as the immune system of the organization. So when you're looking at your team or your family or your own personal life, you are the immune system that is actively looking for and paying attention to the bad things, the pathogens, the viruses that are making their way into your system or your organization or your family. And part of what your responsibility is to identify those, name those, and then figure out how do you prevent and protect from those things that are potential threats. Part of why it's really important for us to begin the process or continue the process of establishing those boundaries personally is so that we can have courage to establish those in our organizations and within our teams. Clear boundaries ultimately will help other people grow and take personal responsibility for themselves. So when you're holding people accountable, when you are clearly defining those lanes of where you start and where they stop, what you're personally responsible for and what they're responsible for, you're giving them a chance to take ownership of what they need to own and struggle with what they need to struggle with. So instead of just taking responsibility for our property, we start paying other people's property taxes and start mowing other people's lawns. And what you've become then is an enabler, and you're enabling people to behave in a way that is not consistent with your values or consistent with the culture you're trying to create or the hope that you're trying to fulfill. And so you start to resent them and not enjoy the work because you're ultimately not holding them responsible or accountable for it.